Hello and welcome to the first ever MCF Racing review. Obviously you've seen that the channel was launched now, Motorcycle Family. We're obviously brand new to the game, but we're looking to do an awful lot of different types of content. So keep your eyes peeled for lots of type of stuff. One of the series that we talked about doing was dedicated to previewing, reviewing and talking about all the world of news around road racing. We're huge road racing fans in the family. So, anything from World Superbikes, BSB, MotoGP, Isle of Man TT, anything you can imagine, we try and consume as much as we can. So what this series is going to be about is really myself and other members of the motorcycle family, the MCF family, talking about, reviewing the races, going to see some races if we can. We normally try to get to Silverstone or Donington or Brands Hatch for various, events throughout the year. And basically just, as we said in the launch video, a little bit of a fan's perspective. I'm not a journalist, no one else in the family is, but we think there's a space to be able to have a bit more of a banterous sort of approach to it. So what we're going to be doing is talking through everything you would expect for all those sorts of races. So delighted to say, obviously the racing season has kicked off. This weekend just gone, we had the first ever race in the season of World Superbikes, and that was at Phillip Island. Now, obviously Phillip Island is in the news a lot at the moment on the MotoGP side. Anyone who's been a fan of racing, of World Superbikes, of Australian Superbikes, of MotoGP will know that Phillip Island is a mainstay, and it has given us some of the best racing. Whether it be World Superbikes over the years. I remember Troy Corser back in the day absolutely smashing it. You've seen all sorts of iconic winners on different types of bikes there over the years in World Superbikes. There is almost something to say, is Phillip Island more iconic in World Superbikes than it is in MotoGP? The good news is, we always get great racing there, and it is, as far as we know, going to be sticking around for World Superbikes. So, yeah, I mean, we can talk about the other side on the MotoGP sort of series, but really, it's great to see that Superbikes is back. We've all been waiting forever for racing to come back, haven't we? And it's nice to see it coming back into our lives this last weekend. So, apart from that MotoGP Phillip Island sort of news story, we sort of knew what to expect here, didn't we? With World Superbikes, we've been watching testing on World Superbikes, seeing what's going on. You see that new Panigale that's come from Ducati. You know that they were strong last year, that people weren't keeping up with them. With an improved bike, arguably greater improvement than any other manufacturer on the grid, it's always going to be a bit of a challenge. And I think that was telling, throughout the three races, throughout, qualifying, any track action that we saw. It was tough to pull apart that Ducati performance, wasn't it? And, last few years you've had Toprak to give Bulega a good go. And, Toprak isn't there anymore, and it's a loss for the series. There's no two ways of going about that. Unfortunately with Toprak going to MotoGP, fantastic for him and fantastic for that series. But, we've seen this weekend, we'll get on to BMW in a moment, that BMW, has gone back to maybe what was true of it before Toprak's sort of time with that team. So I mean, to break the results down, pretty simple really. Bulega dominates, doesn't he, all weekend? Gets top on the podium all three races, the two full races and the sprint race. We saw some good results in and around with some some of the satellite Ducatis doing well. Great to see Montella in second. You saw, for example, Bautista looking good. You saw some of the other satellites, Lowe's and those guys looking good. Also great result for the Bimotors, getting the first double podium since I think 1988. But really it's just imperious form, isn't it, from Bulega, who, as we said already, had Toprak to give him a good try the last few years, but he isn't around anymore. So Bulega is, we're worried he might run away with it a little bit this year on that new Panigale. So yeah, I mean, he gets the triple, surpasses Biaggi and Melandri for wins in the all-time World Superbike wins records. I hear that, or saw that Biaggi messaged him around that. I mean, obviously different era now with three races in a weekend, but still some effort in only his third season in the series. I think this weekend takes Ducati up to 800 podiums in Superbike. I mean, we're seeing Ducati domination in MotoGP now, but anyone who's been watching World Superbikes for a long time knows that Ducati have been at the top, in that series for a very, very long time. Yeah, I mean, touched on Montella and Bautista, and personally, seeing Montella up there is absolutely fantastic. Seeing some of these guys, Baldassari as well, getting up there this weekend. I hope that given some of the tracks that are on the grid, that are on the sort of calendar this year, we'll see some of those satellite guys really mix it. We saw Petrucci do well on that Barney Ducati last few years. Bautista now has that ride, and we saw him and Montella in the mix this weekend. But yeah, Bulega just unstoppable, wasn't it? Very, very difficult to lay a glove on him, to use a boxing term. For the Brits, on the Ducatis, fantastic. I mean, obviously, we know Sam Lowes has been there or thereabouts last few years. He needs to sort of step it up this year. We're all huge Sam Lowes fans at MCF. And, he's mixing it up there this weekend. Some good moves. I mean, the racing generally just overtaken, and just some of the manoeuvres you see, the classic Phillip Island manoeuvres out of the first corner into two, are fantastic. And you saw more of that this weekend. Maybe not on Bulega, but in that second pack for sure. And I think it is going to be a lot of that this year. Who's going to get second place? There is that sort of mirror, isn't there, to MotoGP, where we're wondering, well, is anyone going to be able to put it on mark in MotoGP this year? Is there going to be anyone, or is it just going to be the battle for second? I think you've got that again a little bit here in the World Superbikes too. I'm really keen to see how Lecuona goes this year. In terms of, if you think about where since Moto2, he went into MotoGP, didn't have a competitive ride, comes into World Superbikes, does a couple of years on that Honda that, again, no one's really been able to make work. I think once he gets his teeth into it, he might be one to sort of get on the podium a bit more often and hopefully challenge for wins as well. We can't forget that is a brand new bike for Ducati this year. So not only is Lecuona learning a new bike, his team are learning that bike at the same time. So a lot for him to get his teeth into, and we'll see how it goes. But absolutely buzzing to see it kicking off this weekend and see Bulega just setting that pace. But yeah, to carry on with the satellite Ducatis, really good to see Mackenzie get that his top career performance in fourth, I think, in the last race of the weekend. Brilliant to see that, and obviously there was a little snapshot of his old man there. Again, myself and my old man have been watching the Mackenzies for years in BSB and World Superbikes and all those sorts of things. So to see Mackenzie on that Ducati, getting up there and mixing it, we just hope that package, and he has the financial support, and the package is strong this year, so he can mix it regularly. That's the key thing we want to make sure, isn't it? Ryan Vickers, on the Honda there, to talk more about the Brits, it's going to be a tough one, isn't it? That Honda has not been proved to be a competitive package. Is he going to be able to get up there and sort of mix it with some of the bigger guys, or at least mix it among the manufacturers that are going to be behind your Bimotors and those sorts of things? Maybe. We'll have to see, won't we? But yeah, just a strong weekend generally for the Brits with on the Ducatis. Sam and obviously Mackenzie as well, looking good. In terms of the rest of the grid, I think the strongest, judging on what we've seen last year and early this year, obviously in that Phillip Island weekend, Bimotor looked to be strong. Seeing Lowes and Bassani, on the podium this weekend, seeing them being the most competitive bikes really behind the Ducatis, the satellite Ducatis, it does bode well. They've got a way to go, but they hit the ground running last year. And, I was at Donington with a good friend of mine who'll be joining the channel at some point. And we saw, Bimotor setting that pace there. Considering they were a brand new team, brand new bike, yes, we know it's obviously majority Kawasaki parts in some places, but there's definitely a lot of uniqueness to that team as well. And the bike up close looks insane, classic Bimotor class. I think it bodes well for a good year for them. I think, hopefully we'll see that they're that team that have the backing and the impetus and the will with those riders that look good. Big performance from Bassani this weekend. He needed it because last year he didn't get to grips with it as quickly as Lowes did. Fantastic to see. And you hope that there'll be some tracks where the Ducati's enhancements, the Ducati's core sort of benefits and things that makes it the fastest bike are limited, and maybe the Bimotor can win some races in those instances. On the BMW, difficult, isn't it, really? Brand new guys to the team with Petrucci, who, as you can see, is one of our favourites here on the channel, and Oliveira coming from MotoGP. They're both good at Phillip Island, or have been in the past. You did have mixed conditions this weekend. I think I saw a comment from Petrucci that was suggesting that he thought they might be a little bit better in the wet. You know, that bike is notoriously hard to get to grips with. We've seen a number of top class riders over the years try and get to grips with that bike. Now, I know the bike that Sykes was riding, that Redding was riding a number of years ago, maybe isn't the bike that Top Rack has built that into now, or the team is racing now. But you've got to think the core package is the same. And, you know, they're hovering around mid-pack, aren't they? The BMWs this weekend. You know, Petrucci, I have no doubt Petrucci will get to grips with it. And Oliveira, you know, despite bad qualifying, I mean, absolutely fantastic performance to get up to sort of mid-pack throughout the weekend, you know, while learning the bike, dealing with different conditions and you know, generally Phillip Island being a tough circuit to try and learn, I'm assuming on a new bike that you're trying to learn at the same time. Long way to go for the BMWs, right? But they've got fantastic riders there if they can dedicate the time to it. In terms of Honda, dreadful start. Don't need to spend too much time on it. You know, Chantra and Dixon both injured. Dreadful to see. You want to see those guys coming in and giving a fair shake. You know, both. You know, Chantra had a hellish year last year in MotoGP, but he has got talent. We've seen some sparks in Moto2 with Dixon. You know, again, just nightmare start. But he isn't one to have those. Well, injuries and inconsistency. You've seen him at the top of the deck, really, in Moto2 for the last few years, which is one of the most competitive, if not the most competitive series going. So, yeah, can't wait to see those guys give it a real go on the Honda and see what happens off the back of that. In terms of the rest of the field, Kawasaki, you know, Gerloff on his own in that squad. You know, they've got some new aero this year. I'm not sure what else has changed within the engine. Some talks about some improvements, but you know, he's mid-pack this weekend, so you know, a little way to go there. I don't know how much collaboration there'll be between them and the Bimota team. Maybe there will be. We'll have to see. And Yamaha just off the pace. You have to feel for Locker and people like Remy Gardner this year that are racing those Yamahas. Lack of improvement, and they just look like they're going to be uncompetitive. You know, if you've got that top 8 locked out by Ducatis and Bimotas, and then you've got to filter in those, you know, the Kawasaki's and the BMWs, where are those R1s gonna fit in? Really tough one to see. And you know, I thought Locatelli did fantastic last year. You know, and for the last few years really in the team with Ray. But yeah, we need to see an improvement there from those guys, and I hope it comes, because you know, it would be great to see more of the manufacturers more competitive at the top. You know, so you know, Bulega runs away with the weekend and the championship points on 62. You've got Bassani sort of filtering in behind him. You know. With the competitiveness and just being, you know, consistent on 42 points, and Montella on 26, which again I wouldn't have necessarily predicted. But you've got then Baldassari, Bautista, Lecuona in there, and Tam McKenzie in 7th as the first Brit. So yeah, I mean, that's because some of the other guys might have had one good result in the weekend, but you know, you've seen some crashes. So yeah, all round really good one for Taron, and an interesting start to the season for sure. Next, what can we expect? Well, ultimately, the next race is a little while away, unfortunately. They do this at the start of the World Superbike season. The first, you know, Phillip Island was the weekend just gone, which is the second to last weekend in February. And then the next race is until the end of March, 27th of March at Portimao. So you've got a little bit of a gap now. Bulega's going to be super confident going into that. You know, in the last few years, he's been runner-up. I think last year he was runner-up to Top Rack in all 3 races. So, you know, he's got to want to do the same thing again, isn't he? You know, I expect he's going to want to get in there and try and do that triple, and you've got to wonder who's going to be able to put it to him. One thing about Portimao is it has been the site of some fantastic races over the years. You know, last couple of years there's been less competitiveness because there hasn't been so many people at the top of the order. It's been Bulega and Top Rack really. But if you go back a little bit further, when Ray was at Kawasaki, Top Rack was on the Yamaha, and you had Bautista or Redding on the Ducatis, you know, those races were fantastic around Portimao. So you've got to think that hopefully we'll get a bit of that again this year, even if it is just more Ducatis battling it out. You know, the likes of Bautista and hopefully Lecuona and those sorts of guys challenging Bulega, because they've been fast around Portimao before. Yeah, we'll have to see how it goes. Listen, this is the first of these videos. As I said, we're huge fans here. I've been watching Phillip Island, you know, for years, as I've said, with my old man in my family, and it'll be long may it continue at within World Superbikes. I've seen icons like Bayliss and And as I say, Troy Corser, Australian legends winning races there, but also a host of British riders and other icons. So you've got to hope it stays on that World Superbike grid. And we're looking forward to the next race, Portimao at the end of March. We did do Donington last year in terms of going to see World Superbikes at Donington. Not sure we'll be doing that one this year, but we'll try and get to one of the races and we'll continue to cover it all as we can. Make sure you like and subscribe at the Motorcycle Family on YouTube and on Instagram. Keep an eye out, there'll be more content coming. We're going to try and do some more reaction stuff to news and views. There isn't an awful lot of news coming out of World Superbikes at the moment because the pre-season testing's done. That first round has gone past, and I think it's all about Bulega, isn't it? It's all about that Ducati and Bulega. But as more news lines come out and other things happen, we'll try and make sure that we cover them for you. And it won't just be me covering this. We'll bring my brother in, we'll bring my old man in. We're running the channel together. We've got a lot of other people that are going to get involved as well, big racing fans. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled. We'll be releasing new content soon. Make sure you like and subscribe in all your track day groups, in all your tour groups, all of that sort of stuff. Make sure you share the content and keep an eye out for more. Thanks.